everybody. I'd like to show today how I set up my rotary in my laser and get it ready. Basically the steps I take to get it going and cutting. So let's take a look at that. All right, so I have an HT-460. It's a Haotian HT-460. It's a 16 by 24 inch bed. I use the knife bed just because I feel like it's easier, has less back burn off the stuff when I'm cutting wood and stuff. But either way, so you can see I have the laser. It's where I left off. Like I just shut it off and call it good for the day, right? So when I first turn on my laser, it's going to recalibrate. So it's going to go back to 0, 0, which I have set back to the back left corner. But you can see it will go back to where I originally was cutting, or where my last job was. So my step number one, to make it easy, is to put my laser head back at 0, 0, and then I click on origin. So origin will then set that as my default. So now if I shut it off, turn it back on, it will do its calibration, but now it will stay at 0, 0. So next step is I need to get my bed at the right height. So I'd already started lowering it a little bit. So I'm just going to go into my settings to adjust my bed, and I'm going to bring it down quite a ways because my rotary takes up quite a bit of space. So the next step is I will take all of these knives out, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so something I created was this board that will sit down perfectly inside my tray, and I've put some lines on it so that I know where my centers are. I've marked, you can see here I mark where my rotary goes on both sides, and that way it's easy placement. I can just throw it in, I know exactly where it's going to go, and I've even put in some markings for if I'm doing a 40-ounce cup or the smaller ones. So again, that will just fit down inside like so, and now you can see that that is in there. So now I have my rotary sitting over here. I had the chuck rotary that originally came with the laser. Sorry, not doing a very good job. All right, so here's my rotary. I bought this from Mansfield Customs. It was, I can't remember, it was $300 and something, $350. So it's a lot like the Pie Burns and the others, except for a third of the price or a quarter of the price. So been really happy with it. It's a lot easier in my opinion than the chuck rotary, but I've also learned that maybe I didn't get some of my attachments. Either way, this has been a great purchase and I've really enjoyed it. So I will again just put this in, and again I have my markings so that I know where my center spot is. Just line that up, because again the thing I want is I want this to be perfectly level with my laser head, so that my laser head's going back and forth like it should. So now that I have it placed where I want it, back in the top right, again I have the HT-460, you can see that cable back here in the corner. It's not focusing very well. Let's see if I can help it here. Anyway, so that's the cable I'm going to unhook. So I don't know that this is required, but I always shut my machine off before I mess with any of the electrical. So again, I just reach back in here, spin the little nut off, and then pull it out. So it's got these connects here. Kind of tuck that out of the way. grab my cable, string it up so that it's kind of out of the way of all my stuff. And it's not the easiest location, but you can get it finessed in there. Oh, man. All right, there we go. Yeah, you'll know if it's going on right because you got to turn it quite a few times. So anyway, okay, so I'll kind of tuck that in there so it's out of the way. All right, now we're ready. So what I'm going to do is I'll turn on my laser again. And now it's, instead of moving here, it's going to calibrate. And that takes just a second. You can see your machine will be calibrating here. So we'll wait for that to calibrate. And we'll be done in just a second. So the cup I'm going to be using today is just a thermoflask from Costco. Picked these up for pretty cheap. These are the 40-ounce ones, so the larger style. Something else the Rotary comes with is this attachment here. This is for if you're doing tumblers and that. It screws onto the Rotary, and then this will go inside the cup, and it holds the cup in place and helps it stay in the track. So when I'm doing the types of cups I'm doing, it doesn't work. I can't really, I probably could, but it's a lot easier to do it the other way. So again, I use these cups. First thing first, I need to get rid of the silicone sleeve. And I needed a lid. So unfortunately, the first time I was doing this, I messed up a cup. And so I've got an extra, right? And what I've done is I've taken the handle off the lid so that I just have a lid. So I get on my cup, take off the good lid, get rid of the paperwork and that. And then what I've done is I have popcorn kernels, right? So popcorn kernels, and this will give me weight. So this will hold the cup down as it's rotating so that it doesn't slip, and it works really well. So what I do is I just pour those into the cup. I take my extra lid that doesn't have the handle, and I'm ready to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is make sure that my Rotary is level. So I'm going to place my cup on the Rotary, and can get a level, and I can just place that there. Now over on this side, there's a little dial. Oh, man. Sorry about that. There's a dial down here which I can adjust the height, so I can make this higher or lower. Basically, I want my cup to be level, and that way as it's going along this edge, it'll look good. So now that my cup is level, I'm also looking from my point here. So I want to be kind of on the ends of my cup. That way it holds it in position. So now I don't like to ruin cups. So what I like to do is I like to wrap my cup in tin foil. That way I can do a test run without ruining my cup. All right, so like I mentioned, I like to wrap my cup in tin foil, and I use a painter's tape. So what I do is just rip off a piece of tin foil, take my cup, try to figure out where I'm going to be. If your cup has a marking on it, you can use that as like a start-stop point. because typically I like to engrave on the opposite side of my logos. So I don't want to engrave over the logos per se. So if I'm just doing like a logo and a name or a company logo or something, I'll usually do it on the opposite side of the branding of the cup. If the cup doesn't have branding, it doesn't matter. So typically I like to leave that open because again, I'm going to be engraving on this side anyway, so it doesn't matter if that's open. So I'll kind of just get that here, and I usually just tear this off. And again, that way I have my logo still. So I can see my stop-start point, and it's pretty good. So again, I don't want to have too much on here, so I'll rip off the bottom. Basically, you just need to cover where you're going to engrave. I don't like to have any mix-ups, so I just cover the whole thing. So again, I'll take some painter's tape. And I know this seems like a lot of work, and it is. And that's why you charge a setup fee. But I don't like ruining cups either, so. And after all that, I'm covering up my markings anyway, but we can resolve that by just putting a mark with a pencil or a marker or something. So again, got it wrapped, and now we'll just finish wrapping the cup with tape. Because what we're going to do is we're going to engrave the tape away. It's a way to test your steps and your file. Some logos look better if you stretch them a little bit. So okay, so that's going to be more than sufficient. I've got it all wrapped around there. So again, because I covered up my marking, I can find the pencil here. I'm just going to put a mark where I want it to start. So you can see my mark there. So that way I can start my laser pointer right here. And then as I'm doing my tests, you'll see that I want to make it a full rotation and have it come right back exactly to that point. If it doesn't, then my steps are off and I have to adjust. So let's get this in the machine. We'll get the laser head set up and go from there. All right, so we're back at the laser and I've got my cup in place. So I don't have a y-axis because it's hooked to the rotary, so you're gonna have to manually move your y-axis forward. And you want to be careful with this. You don't want to go too fast and burn up your motor. But then you want to come over, obviously make sure that your z-axis is low enough so that when you come over you don't hit your cup with your laser head, because that's always bad. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm first going to be testing for just making sure I have a full rotation on my steps. Oops. Oops. Okay, let's try it again. So again, we're going to kind of adjust until we're like right in the middle. Sometimes you kind of just have to eyeball it. Even though your rotary is straight, you still have to figure out where your exact placement is. So you want to be right in the center of your cup. So I would say that's pretty good. And you can see I'm on my mark. And so that's right where I want to be. Now we need to go over to the computer. Okay, one thing I failed to do and mention is that we're going to need to know the diameter of our cup so that we can figure out the circumference. So digital calipers, I like to just measure the bottom of the cup, or wherever you're going to be lasering on the cup. Do my best to center that. And I want to be in millimeters because that's what my laser's at. And it's 91 millimeters. So now I'm going to take that information and go back to Lightburn to get everything ready. So I'll put my cut back in. All right, we'll go back to the computer here. All right, so we're here on the computer now. So what we want to do is we're going to open Lightburn. I'm on a Mac. I haven't updated in a while. I'm running 1.201. Things shouldn't really be any different. But what I want to do is I want to go up to Laser Tools up here at the top. And I want to come down to Rotary Setup. So you can see there's a chuck rotary or roller, so it depends on which one you have. I have a roller, and so I'll select that, and I want to enable rotary. So I click on that, turns green, and it's on the y-axis. So down here you can see this becomes on a roller rotary. This is just more of a calculator. It doesn't really do anything. So what I want to do is I want to put in my 91 millimeters, and this will show me 285, 885. Okay. So I want to remember that number, because what I do is I take that number and I create a framing square. A couple other things on the screen before we leave though is the roller diameter. So most of your rotaries probably come with that. My rotary does. It tells me that my drive wheels are 42 millimeters. So I've already put that in here. And then these steps is what we're going to adjust as we start messing with the cup, trying to make it have a full rotation on the cup. This is probably going to be pretty close because this is mainly the type of cups that I use. So again, right now what we're going to do is we're going to create this framing square with this, the 285, 885. So we're going to come out. I'm going to make a square, and I want the height to be 285.885. Okay. Now, I need to figure out my cup size, and so let's go do that real quick. All right, back with the cup. So one other thing I failed to bring up was I need to figure out my height. So I typically like to use just the full area. That way I know what I'm working with and I can test it and it's going to be perfect for placement wise. So I want to start up at this top because I don't want anything taller than that point. And then because I have this little plastic sleeve or rubber sleeve, I really don't want my design coming down into this part either. So I don't really want the full measurement from top to bottom, because then it's not going to look correctly, right? When I get done and I put this sleeve back on, I don't want my logo being clear down here when it, anyway. So what I want to figure out is my measurement from this upper point right here to the top of that rubber sleeve, which I've already figured out. It's 7.5 inches, which my thing doesn't go that far. You can use a tape measure, but it's 7.5 inches for mine. So I need to convert that to millimeters. I just used Siri, hey, convert this over, and that way I have my millimeters. So we'll go back to the computer. All right, so we're back here in Lightburn, and like I mentioned, my size of my area is 7.5 inches, so I've converted that to millimeters. It's 190.5. So I select my shape, come up, I want to unlock because I want my height to stay the same. So we'll change this to 190.5 and it will adjust down. So now this, you can see here from this point up here to the bottom, that's the circumference, and then this is the height of my cup. Again, the rotary is going along the y-axis, so it's traveling down this path. So what I want to do now is I want to have this selected and I want to come down here and hit T1. So this becomes a framing tool. So it's a tool and it's a frame. So this will never cut. So my mess up cup is I was just using a regular thing. I forgot to shut it off, my output off. And so it scored my cup, or tried to cut it really, but that wasn't good. So I always change it to framing square. That way it will never mess anything up. Okay, so now I come over, I design an Illustrator. I've got a file already prepared. So I'm just gonna copy that because I've already kind of put it where I want it. Come over into Lightburn and I'll paste it. So you can see that my thing is off for some reason, but it's all good. So what I want to do is I want to ungroup that, get rid of that one. So what I like to do is I typically will take, let's go back actually. Yeah, okay. So it's probably the height I want. I may adjust that a little bit. But again, we're going to get rid of that. I like to select both of them, come up top, and I'm going to center it. Oh man. So I got to make sure this is all grouped so that doesn't happen. Let's try and center that again. There we go. So I'm guessing I'm probably going to want this bumped up just a bit. So let's go more like right in there. Again, this up here is the top of my cup. This is the bottom of my cup, or really right where that rubber piece is going to start. Okay, so now really I just need to go over and start testing out my my rotary to make sure that it's correctly aligned and got the right steps. So let's go do that. All right, we're back at the laser. So what I want to check is, one thing I forgot is to make sure that my focal height is correct. So I found when I do cups, it's better to be out of focus in the sense of further away than you normally would. So if I typically cut at 8 millimeters, I'm going to come back at like 9. So right now, it's about where I'm at. I'm going to adjust it just a hair. Yeah. So I have it where I want it. Then I just manually check that because it's hard to autofocus because it's clear out here. So you have to manually kind of set your focal height. So now that I'm here and I have my file in Lightburn ready to go, I'm going to just try it out. I'm going to hit frame. So you can see it's rotating around the cup. And my goal is for it to do one full rotation and come back to my line. So hard to see on the camera probably, but that was short. So you can also adjust this framing speed, which I have mine set. It's under the Move tab. So I have my framing speed at 30. And it doesn't have to be that slow, but it's kind of nice for it to be slower, just to make sure. So again, I'm going to make sure that I'm right on where I want to be. I go back to my computer, open up Laser Tools, go to Rotary Setup, and my steps are currently at 5130. So I didn't go far enough, so I need to increase that a little bit. If I bump it up one, it takes me to 5150, which really is 20, but it's really not that much. So let's try it one more time. We'll hit OK, and we're going to just frame it again. So I know this is painful, but it's very important. Okay, so that was pretty dang close. I am going to adjust it just a little bit. Again, Laser Tools, Rotary Setup, and I'm going to go up just to like 5160, and we'll see what we get. So we'll come back to 0. I'm gonna get it right on the money, and I'm gonna frame it again. Okay, so that is as good as I would like it. You can see it's going almost all the way to the bottom of my cup though, And it's because I'm not at the top of my cup. So before we start cutting, what I'm going to do is I'll bump that up visually to the top of my cup. So, we go up there to the top of my cup, and now I need to turn everything on. So, turn on the water, turn on my air. All right, so back at it. The settings I use are obviously Engrave. My speed I do is 400. Power is 50 min and 50 max. And I do 600 lines per inch, which is a lot. And it may not be necessary, but I've always had great results. When I've tried to take it down a little bit, I've not been as happy. So I just stick with the super high lines per inch, and I've been happy. Again, I'm on a 100-watt Chinese laser, Haotian HT-460, and so your settings may adjust depending on the laser you have. But these are the settings. So 400 speed, 50 max, 50 min, 600 lines per inch. So now that we have our settings right, and again, I don't care so much about my cup because I've got it wrapped. So what we'll do is it's going to get really loud and stinky, but what I'll do is run this Engrave real quick. Okay, so now I can take that out and I can see exactly what it's going to look like. I can see if I like my placement or not from the top of the cup. Sometimes I like to even throw on the little thing, just trying to get a better visual. And yeah, I think I like it. So again, it should be on the other side of that, and it is. So because I centered it in the whole space, and then again I have the whole space here, I can put exactly where I want it. So now we'll take off the plastic, the tinfoil, and the tape, and we'll do the actual cup. So we'll be right back. And I just wanted to show you this real quick before I cut the actual cup. So again, back in Lightburn, have our settings. So 400 speed, 55 power, or 50 power on min and max. And then I did 600, but it changes it to 604, which is fine. So those are my settings. Again, I have my framing square and my cut. If I come up here to preview, I can see exactly what it's going to do. You can play that. It says it's going to take 7 minutes and 44 seconds. It's because I do so many lines per inch. And going for quality though. So yeah. So that's that. So now we'll go to cutting it. This time I'm going to show a little differently. I got to close that lid. That stunk so bad last time. So we'll be right back. All right, so now we're done. Gonna go clean it up. So we'll take that into the bathroom and clean it up. We'll be right back. All right, so I'm here in my bathroom. I got my cup, and then I like this totally awesome spray. Just get it from the dollar store, Dollar Tree, $1.25. I use a toothbrush, and then I use a magic eraser. So it's fairly simple with this stuff. Without it, it's a pain. So I got my cup. I'll just spray that on there good. Take my toothbrush. Go back and forth a few times. And rinse that off. And then just use the magic eraser, just lightly buffing it. And there you have it. Clean as can be. This, just wrapping things up. Take and put my silicone thing on the bottom. Drop my kernels back in my other cup. And I got my, put that away. And package the cup back together. And there she is. So all done. So a couple housekeeping items. I have not shut my laser off yet. Well, before I do that, you want to do a couple things. One, you want to disable your rotary. So you go back into laser tools and rotary setup, and I'm going to uncheck the enable rotary button. If I don't do this, I can see I have a little friend in the back, it's all messed up. So I haven't shut the laser off. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my laser head over to the far left, and I'm just going to lightly, slowly push the bar back. That way, when I turn my laser back on with my y-axis hooked up again, it will be close enough that it will go back to home and calibrate. Say hi, buddy.
Hi.
So then that will calibrate, and you'll be good to go. If you don't do it, then you have all sorts of issues, and it took me a long time to figure it out. But you have to re-enable the rotary, turn it on, get it to calibrate, which takes forever, then uncalibrate. Yeah, it's a nightmare. So just remember to disable your rotary and to get it kind of closer back into your home back corner. And that way, once you have everything hooked back up, you'll be good to go. So I am going to point you back over this direction here. And show what I'm going to do. So I'm going to shut the rotary off. Right? Now we're going to unhook the rotary. And plug my Y back in. That, and now you can see when I turn it on, it's going to calibrate. If it doesn't hit those stop points, it doesn't fix. So you can see it went back to my original spot. Not that big of a deal. I'll put her back in the corner, hit origin, and now we'll be there. Oh, see. So what I did, rookie mistake. So I disabled my rotary, but I didn't hit the OK button. So now my rotary is thinking that it's still there. So I've disabled that now. I'm going to shut that off, turn it back on, let it calibrate. So now, yeah, now it works just fine. So if you ever find that when you turn it back on, it won't go very far, it's because your rotary is enabled. So now I've got, it's all good to go. So then I just pull out my rotary. Bring my Z back up. And put my knife bed back in, take this out. I just pop that out so my pieces can fall out. So anyway, that should do it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. Happy to help in any way. So thanks for watching.